And now, the general weather around Alaska. Welcome to Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Peter Chan, coming to you from the National Weather Service on this Saturday, October 28th, 2023. And if you'd like additional weather information along with this YouTube broadcast, you can go to weather.gov and it'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. and you point and click anywhere on this map. It'll bring up a forecast with any relevant watches, warnings, or advisories. And looking at the continental U.S. this Saturday afternoon, in the nation's midsection, we have freeze warnings over Missouri, parts of Kansas, winter weather advisory, post-frontal as a result of a light mix of precipitation with some winter storm warnings back into the Colorado Rockies, and then farther west, some more freeze warnings along the Oregon coast. And then down here in Northern California, we have red flag warnings for critical fire weather conditions associated with Santa Ana winds, very dry conditions that could really allow fires to rapidly grow if they start. Here in Alaska, we continue to watch this upper level ridge of high pressure that's been the dominant weather feature for the past couple of weeks. It's beginning to shift a little further southeast and it's de-amplifying, so it's not going to be as strong or much of an influence as it's been the past couple of weeks. Nevertheless, it still will have some influence, and on the backside of this ridge, we have a low sitting out over the Bering Sea, and the southeast to southerly flow ahead of that along the west coast is producing some rain and a little mixed precipitation. It could include a little snow or very light freezing rain or drizzle, mainly along areas of the west coast, west mainland, and into and along the Arctic coast, as well as parts of the North Slope. And we're watching a couple of solar disturbances that may arrive by Sunday night and linger into Monday that could lead to enhanced high latitude aurora being visible here over Alaska. I'll talk more about that in just a second. And it still looks like temperatures for the first at least few days here in November are going to average above normal for much of the state. Looking at the FAA webcams this afternoon, this Saturday, Wales indicating mostly cloudy skies, breezy conditions. There have been some passing light rain showers. We've seen temperature there 45 degrees, and 40-degree temperatures have been observed as far north as Cape Lisburne there along the Chukchi Sea coast. Way to the southeast, Heidelberg in the southwest corner there of the Panhandle, enjoying mostly sunny skies, 46 degrees temperatures. That way will be up around 50. Look at that water there, no wind, just nice glass, smooth glass surface there of the water. So we don't have any advisories, watches, or warnings, but the areas here shaded in this lighter blue are special weather statements, just as a, hey, here's a heads up for the potential for at least a little light mixed precipitation over areas of the western mainland from east side of Norton Sound and Kotzebue Sound, as well as along areas of the Chukchi Sea coast and the Arctic coast and North Slope. And that would be now through at least early Monday. We're not expecting, though, any heavy precipitation. It's just the fact we have this big ridge of high pressure over here, and you get the southeast to south flow coming up and then turning with a cold front that'll be passing across the far north here as we go through the day on Sunday. And that front will be accompanied by a band of some snow showers that could be mixed with a little bit of freezing rain or drizzle. So today, Saturday, actually shortly after noon, we have a full moon, moon of the frozen lakes, so that has already occurred. And we are expecting the arrival of a stronger solar wind coming through a coronal hole in the sun and a glancing coronal mass ejection that occurred a few days ago. And that could enhance high latitude aurora over Alaska starting Sunday evening, and if that disturbance persists even into Monday evening. So keep your eyes peeled between Sunday evening, early Monday morning, or Monday evening. So here's an image of the sun from a couple days ago taken on the 27th. In this coronal hole, it's a region where the solar wind is coming directly out of the sun, pointed at Earth. And this is kind of like a sprinkler effect. The sun rotates roughly every 29 days. And so when we get this coronal hole, it sends out a stronger stream of particles at a higher rate. The coronal, or I should say the solar wind out of that thing has been up over 500 kilometers a second. So that could enhance the aurora when that arrives and interacts with the Earth's geomagnetic field here come Sunday evening, Sunday night. Want to reiterate ice safety. We have the first ice of the season that's been building up here now over the past week and a half or so. And the recommendations or suggestions for minimum thickness are for new clear ice only. But if the ice is 2 inches or less, stay off it. Once you get up around 4 inches, it's enough to support ice fishing and walking. Once it gets up around and over 5 inches, you can have small groups of people skating. Snow machines, you want to have over 6 inches. Cars over 9 inches, and anything bigger, trucks and that, you want to have well over a foot of ice, and we're a ways yet away from that kind of ice buildup. But certainly, we've had the cold temperatures now allowing for a lot of ice to develop, not just on ponds and lakes, but also along some rivers. And so, again, just be very careful here early in the season until this ice is really thick and safe. Now, looking on the satellite imagery, we have another push of moisture. There's a low that's coming up here just southwest of the Kodiak Island, and it'll end up kind of weakening there just off of the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula. We have this low that's just sitting out over the central Bering. It's going to gradually sit and spin and drift northwestward toward the Cape of Anadyr, or I should say the Gulf of Anadyr, by the time we get into early Tuesday morning. And then this broad ridge of high pressure still in place here over western Canada and the Panhandle, though not as strong as what it was this past week. So it's going to allow some of these systems to start coming back up along the Gulf Coast or push a little further inland along the West Coast. And then we have a cold front also working its way across the far north, and that'll be pushing across the North Slope and Chukchi coast, Arctic coastline as we go through Sunday. So here's the current weather map. There's that low coming up out of the North Pacific. That's what's helping to spread cloud cover back up across the Kenai Peninsula into Anchorage. Further west, here's the low just sitting and spinning with numerous scattered showers. There can be even some flashes of lightning, rumble of thunder beneath this cool pocket of air out over the relatively milder waters of the Bering. And by the time we get into late tonight, early Sunday morning, this low lifts a little further north, just southwest of Kodiak Island. We have the ridge in place over western central Canada, and the low just continues to sit here in the central Bering with a cold front gradually pressing eastward. That'll advance a little faster during the day on Sunday, so by Sunday afternoon, along this front there will be a band of either some light snow or light snow showers that could be mixed with a little rain or a little freezing rain, nothing that would amount to too much. And the front here that's pushed up along the southwest coast, YK Delta, is going to kind of wash out and just be a trough, with mainly some light rain showers along the coast because it's been mild. Temperatures are generally in the mid-upper 30s near, and even some cases 40s. We've seen some low mid 40s along areas of the western Seward Peninsula, so the air is not especially cold. And that other low, there's going to be another little piece of energy rotate up into the Gulf by Monday and produce a weak low, but nevertheless some light precipitation along the immediate Gulf Coast into parts of the Panhandle, with some snows once you get inland and in the intercoastal mountains. Otherwise, that low that was been sitting out here in the central Bering just slowly drifts up into the Gulf of Anadyr. And then we have a ridge of high pressure extending all the way up from the central Arctic Ocean across the Yukon into western Canada. Not as strong as what we've seen the past week or two, but still that feature is in play. And looking at temperatures Sunday morning, where skies are clear, winds are light, we see temperatures dip below freezing across parts of the Panhandle. Back here to the west, south central areas, not as cold because skies are not going to be as clear. 13 Glen Ellen instead of down near 0 like last week. And with the cloud cover and winds picking up, lows in the 40s there at Kodiak, and we expect highs around or just above 50, Kodiak City back through King Salmon, 40s all the way up into Anchorage, Palmer, and as we go east, we expect generally 40s across the Panhandle. Can't rule out an isolated 50-degree reading. Monday morning lows generally above freezing, the outer and southern areas of the Panhandle. The inner channels could see lows near freezing. Still below freezing, as would be expected here, Talkeetna Mountains and the Copper River Basin. But readings should stop near just above freezing, Anchorage southward, and especially across the Kenai. And temperatures moderate a bit back up into the 40s along the coast and even up into areas of south central, including Anchorage and Talkeetna. They're around 42, 43. And looking at the far north, not quite as cold. The interior, still some isolated single digits above 0 Sunday morning, but not as cold as the past week. Look at the temperatures have moderated along the west side of the state, especially the Yukon Delta on up across the west side of the Seward Peninsula. Those will be above freezing, and daytime highs getting back up around or are certainly above freezing. Some 40s here, the lower Yukon Delta. Upper 30s to near 40 perhaps at Nome, and that some of that milder air gets pulled ahead of that cold front a little further east, so that's why temperatures have moderated along the west side of the state, and lows on Monday morning will not be as cold, generally in the teens there in the east central areas, and along the north slope also teens to low 20s, but then above freezing Seward Peninsula near the coast and extending down along the southwest, and temperatures could still be around 40 at Imanuk, and as we go further inland, temperatures should generally stay below freezing once you get up toward the central upper portion of the Yukon Valley and certainly across the North Slope. Looking at the southwest, Sunday morning lows generally above freezing until you get further up the Yukon River or the upper Kuskokwim. You're going to see readings below freezing at McGrath and areas northeast of Anvik, but down along the Alaska Peninsula, readings generally in the 40s. Sunday afternoon, we're going to see some lower 50s from King Salmon extending down along the Alaska Peninsula, 40s along the coast otherwise. And then for Monday morning, lows generally above freezing across much of the interior southwest because we're going to have some cloud cover and a little light precipitation around. And temperatures 40-ish or better for the Alaska Peninsula with highs again, upper 40s to a few lower 50s even possible as we trail out going further down the length of the peninsula, Chiknik and back toward Cold Bay and Dutch Harbor. So here's the temperature outlook now. We get a little deeper into the first week of November. November 3rd through the 7th, temperatures are expected to average above normal, especially across the southeastern portion of the mainland from the Kenai Peninsula on up into the Copper River Basin and especially over the Panhandle, also including areas along the North Slope and up around Utqiagvik. Near normal temperatures expected from the middle Yukon westward to Kotzebue and Norton Sounds, including the Seward Peninsula, down to around Bethel. And precipitation-wise, we're still not seeing any really big storms coming up here in early November. Precipitation should generally average below normal along the west side of the mainland, maybe slightly below normal in a few pockets along the eastern Alaska Range, 40-mile Gold Country, northern Copper River Basin, and perhaps up around Dead Horse to Utqiagvik, but no real strong signatures for any heavy precipitation or precipitation events like that coming up here in early November.